And to my best, Colin Hill, man, just the performance.
He's out there.
He went crazy against Arkansas on the ground, making cuts, slashing through the middle, getting to the edge, getting caught from behind, which I didn't like. But when you run for that many yards, you get tired. It's like sprinting all the time. Number 8 has been a grown man for Mississippi State all season long. He had another great day Saturday.
And speaking of true passion, it's time for You Got Moss.
Well, let's get it started. Steve, it's on. Let's go. Top 5. Let's start off number 5, Mississippi State versus Arkansas. Tommy Stevens throws it to Osiris Mitchell. Mitchell goes up over Ladarius Bishop for the touchdown. I asked him yesterday, are we playing football? Young man, where do you think we got Mawson from? Ladarius Bishop, you got Moss. Last but not least, Brown versus Bronco. Brandon Allen, I see you, baby. A great win yesterday. But you hit your wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, that goes over Denzel Ward for the touchdown.
Another receiver saving the day for the quarterback. Keep that going.
Randy, somebody's got to say hello to you.
What's up, Mike T? How you doing, baby? Hey, how are you? That's my old teammate from San Francisco, Mike Thompson, Stanford grad. But I'm going to tell you what, last week's winner was Brandon Edwards, how he extends his arms out there. But this week's winner, I don't know. I just need y'all to vote. Last week's this week. I'm going to tell you what, Denzel Ward got Moss. Yeah, that was a great play by Sutton and great win by Mr. Allen.
First of all, I want to congratulate Brandon Allen on his first NFL start with a win. And Coach Allen and his family, I know they're extremely excited. We're very proud of him and excited for him. I appreciate our fans and the environment that they create. And they created Saturday. They're relentless and they're passionate. And their love for the Hogs is seen and felt. And I'm completely unacceptable and disappointing the performance from last Saturday. I, as well as our entire staff, take full responsibility for it. There was nothing through the course of the week that ever indicated a performance of that magnitude or lack thereof. But we did have a few young, bright spots that I was pleased to see after watching film. It was really good to see John Stephen Jones and KJ Jefferson get in and provide a spark for our offense, leading touchdown drives, both of them. We also had an opportunity for a lot of our young players to continue to gain valuable experience. We'll start John Stephen Jones this week. Excited for him. We will play KJ as well to continue to develop him. They will add to the list of the freshmen and sophomores that we've started this year. And I believe about half of our starters this season have been freshmen or sophomores, so they'll add to that list. It was impressive as I turned the film on to watch Scooter Harris play, and just his relentlessness and his ability to continue to sell out every play is very inspiring. And when you have your best players selling out like that, it allows me to use them as examples in team meetings on Sundays when these players come back in here on exactly what the standard is and what's accepted here and how we play. Scooter will be one of 17 seniors that will honor this Saturday, that they'll play their last game here in Fayetteville. And I know it'll be a very emotional day for those seniors. And so as we move into Western Kentucky, and a team that's 5-4. Obviously, we have followed Ty's story. We're excited for Ty. Ty has had a really good year and is playing really well. We're proud for him. He's tough. He's gritty. And they're top 25 in time of possession, so they do a great job of controlling the ball. Defensively, they give up less than 20 points a game. They're very sound in what they do defensively. They return 3 starters. They got the D'Angelo Malone is 9th in the country in sacks. And so we're going to have to play well. And we got to play to our standard, and that's the challenge right now. And that we've challenged these guys and this staff moving forward. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you for questions. Go ahead, Bob.
Chad, I mean, what all went into the decision to start John Stevens, and how do you think he'll play? How ready do you think he is for the opportunity?
Well, I think when you look at his prior performance when he stepped on the field the last 2 weeks. The moment has not been too big for him. I think he did a great job coming out and playing with grit and toughness and just providing a lift. And I think he'll play really well. I've watched him and from high school all the way into where he is now and just his development.
The situation with Ty Storey, how did that go? Was that a mutual decision? Did he decide to step away? Did y'all move on? And is there any kind of advantage it gives you or him in playing him?
Well, I'm sure Ty is excited about coming back into his home state and playing. And, Ty and I met and with his family, and we did not want Ty to leave. But Ty wanted to go to a place that he wanted to go in and have an opportunity to be the starter and was going to look around and see what was best for him moving forward. And he wants to coach, and we've had a lot of talks on that, and we're just excited for Ty, and he's playing really well.
Knowing him though, any tendencies, does that give y'all any kind of edge?
At this stage right now where we're at, it's about us. It's about getting in there and playing to our standard.
Chad, I guess did you meet with O'Grady yesterday, and just kind of what's the situation there?
Yeah, we met as I shared. We met Sunday evening. We both mutually agreed that what's best for CJ and what's best for this football program is for him to step away for the final 3 games and to help him perform and prepare for what's next in his life, and we're here to help him with that.
With the way quarterback has gone, how disappointed have you been with where things are now with the way Ben and Nick have played and now having to go with John Steven and KJ?
Well, I'm excited about John Steven and KJ. I think that those guys, I think you felt the lift on the sidelines. I know I did when they went in. And, I'm again with Ben and with Nick. They're 2 fine young men that love the game of football. And a lot of factors that have came into play that it wasn't just solely just those 2 guys or one guy, and I mean it didn't work out. We couldn't get the consistency that we needed, but they were back in here yesterday and eager to help these young guys continue to grow and mature, and if their opportunity arises, they're going to be prepared to step in there if it comes to that.
You mentioned KJ. Do you have like a set plan when you want to put him in, or just kind of go by feel?
Well, I don't know. It'll probably be we'll probably have a plan in place for that for whenever we get a chance to get him in there, but it'll be soon. Give him a chance to get some valuable reps and experience.
You mentioned Western's time of possession. What is it that they do that allows them to keep the ball? Why are they a good offense?
Yeah, what they do, they Ty does a really good job of getting the ball underneath to receivers and passes out in the flats. They do a good job mixing up the runs and the pass, but he gets the ball out of his hand. A lot of bubble screens and quick throws, and they keep the chains moving.
I had a couple personnel things. What's the update on Davion Warren and Grant Morgan with their injuries? And Trey looked like he really did a good job, or Traylon looked like he really did a good job on kickoff returns. Even if Davion's back, would you think about keeping Traylon on kickoff return?
We would, yes. Davion will be out this week. We hope to get him back after our open week, but we'll see on that. And Grant Morgan, he was back at practice last night.
And then we noticed, I guess, Ladarius Bishop started from McClellan, but then McClellan came in, I think, in the second half. Was that a disciplinary thing where he didn't start, or was that just, hey, let's give Ladarius a shot, or what was the deal with that?
It was giving Ladarius a shot, giving Day a shot, and an opportunity to get out there and play and create some competition there.
So Austin Capps, has he been cleared?
Austin Capps we expect him to be back. He was in a green jersey last night, so we anticipate him being back.
Chad, what are you expecting from a crowd standpoint on Saturday? And does the prospect of John Steven and KJ maybe be something that energizes the crowd to get them excited about where y'all are headed?
Well, I think so. I mean, when you look at it, I'm again, as I mentioned in my opening statement, Razorback fans, and I mean, they love the Hogs. It's evident. I anticipate the crowd. I know it's 11 o'clock kick, but I anticipate the crowd to be good. I know that to see these two young guys play, and with John Stephen and with all the young guys that played last week. I think we played 21 last week, somewhere in there.
Hey, with O'Grady, I mean, he's obviously a talent. The few times we talked to him, he was always, thoughtful, polite. He seemed like he had a lot of things going for him, but, Brett had issues with him. You guys obviously had issues with him. Is it just disappointing that a guy who has that much going for him, immature, whatever, that you just can't get through to him? How frustrating is it?
Well, we first of all, we met last night, and we want to wish CJ the best. And we're here to help him get to where he wanted to get to at the next step. And so, we want to wish him the best right now.
Coach, with the way the last three games have gone and this last one, you'd obviously like to see the team being more competitive here the second part of the season, but what are the reasons that you could give for the fans that this thing is headed in the right direction and not kind of falling apart here at the end?
Well, you're asking for what?
What could you say to the fans that would
encourage them what's ahead? Yeah, what's ahead. I think as you look at the, when you consider and you look at the entire season and the layout of the season, when over half your starters or right around half your starters have been freshmen, true freshmen or sophomores, there are as I mentioned earlier, when you play young guys, you're going to have some growing pains. You're going to have some tough times, and we're going through a few of those. But that's no excuse in where we're at right now. But it is. There are guys that are playing at a very high level. I don't know. And I mentioned Scooter Harris, but Traylon Burks is playing at an incredibly high level. I used him as an example in front of the team last night as well, and that's a true freshman. And so. When your best players are playing at a high level, you can point that out real quick and to get the other guys up. So I think that with the amount of young players that have been playing, there's no one more disappointed in the performance of Saturday than our players and our staff. And so that's we're back on the field last night, and so. It was back to work at it.
I was wondering about a couple of your other younger guys like Brady Latham and Jalen Catalon. Do you have any regrets with how you maybe handled their playing time, their 4 games? They've played a couple of kneel-down snaps in a couple of games, and Catalon had a special team snap in one of his others. Do you have any regrets with how you've handled that?
Jalen's actually going to play this week. He's got a game left, and so we're excited about Jalen. Brady Latham, I think, got some substantial reps last week. And, obviously with the injuries in our offensive line, we've kind of had to bring him along, and we're trying to hold him as much as we can. So that's where we're at.
I know Hudson Henry played. It's 5. I'm not sure how many true freshmen played for the first time. I think Jefferson. Just how do you think those guys did, the guys who got in for the first time?
I think we had six true freshmen that played that have not played in a game Saturday. I think Hudson played somewhere around 18 to 20 snaps, did some really good things. Was very excited to get out there. And it was good to see him. Had a couple of passes called to him that we were trying to get the ball in his hands, and he definitely did some good things, and obviously he'll play this week as well.
Chad, you mentioned the excitement in the air when KJ came in. I think John Stephen too. What about the team? What have you sensed? What's the feedback you get from the players about what those guys can offer you, and why were they successful on offense?
Well, I think that when you add the quarterback run game to the dimension of an offense, to our offense and what we've been, it's it adds a new dimension. It adds a new gap. As quarterbacks create the extra with being a runner, they create an extra gap. And so I think that's some of the reasons why we had some success with it. And I think when the ability of these guys understanding they want the ball in their hands. I thought from a team standpoint, even from last night, the guys were back in here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they were disappointed, as we all were. There was when we got out on the field yesterday or last night, the guys were bouncing around and ready to improve and get better, and knowing with John Steven and KJ, I think they're excited to watch these young men and help them out.
So you had announced it like before y'all went to practice yesterday?
They got all the reps yesterday in practice.
Just wondering, Tyson Helton at all, the Western coach?
I think I've met Coach a few times. He's been very well respected every encounter that I've had with him, and people that I know that know of him. But as far as just a mutual friend, I don't know him that well.
Do you consider this like a must-win for you? I mean, how would you characterize what Saturday is?
Well, I think so. I think each game is a must-win, and I think it has been a must-win. And we're going to for every game going into being we always go into every game with a must-win attitude, and this is no different. Our approach this week is to go in and put a plan together that our players can execute, and in front of our crowd and senior day, and perform at our standard, which is best.
Any more questions? Question marks. Last one, Bob.
Speaking of the seniors, those guys have obviously been through a lot, coaching change, a lot of tough games. Just kind of what's your thoughts on the senior class?
Well, I think that they're very gritty. I think that they've been tough. They've had a lot to overcome. A lot of change has happened in their tenure here. And as I mentioned earlier, when you can set examples and show seniors that have gone through all the trials and hardships and the struggles through the course of a season, and to play at the level that Scooter Harris and you see Sosa that play at are very it's inspiring to see, because these guys they have a genuine love for this university, and they want to leave their legacy.
All right, John Steven, you're going to be making your first start for Arkansas here tomorrow. What's been your preparation like this week? How's practice been different for you?
Just getting reps with the ones has been a lot of fun, and just going in, watching a lot of film, and just getting ready each and every day like you're getting ready to play.
How has this season been for you so far, being able to come in, get some reps? How do you hope to take that into tomorrow's game?
The last few weeks I've been able to get in the game and have some meaningful time, so it's definitely helped coming into this week to have a little game experience under my belt.
You obviously have some family ties to this Arkansas program. What was it like before you got here throughout your recruiting process?
I've always been an Arkansas fan ever since I was a little kid. All my cousins, aunts, and uncles, all huge Arkansas fans. So recruiting was fun because I was able to come up here, and I have family who lives here, so come see them. So Arkansas was always a top pick.
You grew up in a pretty prominent football family. What's it like being part of the Jones family and knowing what kind of tradition that name brings?
It's just always being around football. Dad's always, that's his job, is to be around football. So whenever he gets home, we're talking about football. So my dad was always my coach, and to be able to go on Sundays and watch the Cowboy games with him was a lot of fun.
What kind of feedback has he given you from what you've been able to do so far here?
He's just really excited. He's just a dad, and he's just really excited to watch me go play.
I know you've had some family come and be able to watch some of your last couple of games. What is Dad, what is Grandpa giving you any sort of coaching after those games?
No, they're not into the coaching part when it comes to when they're not being the coach. So they're just giving me a bunch of love and support, and I love them for it.
So obviously you grew up a Cowboys fan. Anybody that you looked up to, anyone you try to emulate when you step on the field?
I don't know if I can emulate it, but Tony Romo was always my favorite.
Why?
I loved the way he moved in the pocket and stuff, and we kind of had a little close relationship while he played.
What is it about Tony on and off the field that kind of drew you to him?
He's a super smart football player. You can tell by the way he plays. He's always checking plays down to the last second of the play clock, and the way he studied the game was really fun to watch.
I know you mentioned he reached out to you before this game tomorrow. What kind of conversations do you have with him about your football career?
He shot me a text the other day just saying good luck and go do your thing. So,
what is your goal for this game tomorrow and for your career for the rest of the season?
The goal tomorrow is just to go out and get a win. We've been close a few times, and we're trying to get our 3rd win here, so that's the goal for tomorrow.
Okay, too many football questions. What's your favorite place to go eat in Arkansas?
Well, there's a Whataburger down the road, and I'm a Texas boy, so Whataburger's got to be my number one.
Whataburger is always a good answer. John Steven, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I am Mississippi State student meteorologist Dax Clark with a check of your game day forecast around the SEC. Starting you off in Fayetteville on the Hill as Western Kentucky takes on Arkansas at 11 a.m. Temperature starting out in the upper 40s, but warming into the middle 50s under partly cloudy skies throughout the game. So a very nice one there in Fayetteville.
The quarterback carousel continues here in Arkansas. All season we've seen Ben Hicks and Nick Starkel at the helm. Today it'll be the redshirt freshman John Steven Jones, grandson of Jerry Jones, getting the start for the Arkansas Razorbacks. We'll also see the freshman KJ Jefferson, who saw some action last week, get in today as well. They're taking on a Western Kentucky team, though, that has a lot to play for. 1 win away from becoming bowl eligible. We'll have your kickoff noon Eastern time. Matt Stinchcomb, Taylor Zarzer, and myself. We'll see you right here at noon on the SEC Network. Laura, back to you.
Welcome back to SEC Nation. John Steven Jones getting the start today for Arkansas quarterback. And Marcus, he's Jerry Jones' grandson.
It's amazing. I remember John Steven running around the Cowboy facility as a little boy. Now he's making his first start in college football. You're old,
Marcus.
He's a super competitor, too.
That just means you're old.
This week, get some advice from Mr. Romo going into this game to try to get his Hogs the win.
That's pretty cool. I'm sure Tony's checking on his buddy JSJ today. Corey Munson will kick it deep to Chase Hayden, to Nathan Parody and Traylon Burks in the first ever meeting between the Hilltoppers and the Razorbacks. And we're seeing John Steven Jones lead the Razorbacks onto the field.
A record holder at the tight end position.
So now 1st and 20, and John Steven Jones will take off, and he takes a hit from Devin Key after a minimal gain. 4-yard pickup for Jones on a 2nd and 16 now. Throws, and it's caught. Mike Woods with a nice grab.
You mentioned it, though. Pearson should have come up with a catch on 2nd down.
On 3rd down, good coverage there underneath as Greg Brooks Jr.
Because you were getting run all over the football field, the defense has to step up.
On the toss there, it's Walker to the 25-yard line. Makes the extra point. Ty Story's back in Fayetteville, tossing it to Jaquez Sloan, and the Hilltoppers are on top.
It's a lot of time in offensive backfields.
Steven loads up, and that's a good one. It's caught by Traylon Burks.
As well, even with Ty Story going 9 starts.
This is straight up the gut, and it's Boyd with a burst of speed. Outruns the defense. 76 yards.
Well, watch, it's just a simple zone play. So they're going to sniffer back this direction, and the offensive line's going to block to the left. You end up dividing the defense. You see this a lot now, and great vision by Boyd. You see 2 different motions.
Boyd had a 52-yard run for a touchdown last week against Mississippi State, went 74 against Kentucky. That was 76, and it's the longest play of the year.
To start better offensively, they're able to do it on the 2nd possession.
Gage Walker met immediately, but he didn't have the football. A little trickeration there.
You're at the bottom of your screen.
This is an inside handoff to Gage Walker. It's bottled up, nothing doing there. Bumper pool. Fake to Walker. Story runs right into the heart of that defensive line.
Unbelievable.
He went 0-9 as a starting quarterback last year for Arkansas. He's beating his old team today. Steven Jones in trouble. Shovel pass at the last minute to Whaley. Pretty creative there to get rid of the football, but Devoy is short of the first down. 1st and 10, Pearson again. Story is looking for him on almost a play-by-play basis, and Curl and Poole wrap him up. Peter Burns is mic hot throughout this game for all the updates we're going to get on other games, as that one's deflected at the line by Bumper Poole. They've converted 4 fourth downs, and Arkansas's former quarterback Ty Story has 2 touchdowns, and his Hilltoppers are up 14. This field here in Fayetteville never won a game for Arkansas as a starter. He is feeling it with the visiting team today, up 3 touchdowns. Fakes to Whaley, keeps it himself, and again takes on defenders just like last week and gets a handful.
Truck a safety.
How about again? And KJ turning into a runner, and it's a first down run, Alyssa. Here he is, up 3 touchdowns against his old team, tossing ahead to Sloan, and Jacquez is stopped near the line of scrimmage for nothing, 2nd down. Story does have a timeout left. Gage Walker easy into the end zone.
Has good command of the offense right now.
Thank you, Coach.
Total domination, 51 plays to 19. Time of possession battle is 2-1, and Razorbacks fans have had enough. It's 35-7 Western Kentucky. Peter Burns, Chris Doring, and Gene Chizik take it away. Shovel pass ahead, and it's blown up. The junior from Sydney, Australia. And this is another terrific punt. Burks has to go all the way back to his 14-yard line. Gets a block. And he's tackled up at the 30, so it's a 17-yard return. Gage Walker runs into Hogs. We'll lose yardage there as Scooter Harris playing in his final game in Fayetteville. 3rd and goal. Story is stopped shy of the goal line. It's 4th down.
Like he's going to go fly fishing at the end of the game.
I'm going to be in the fall catalog. TJ Hammonds breaks through there, and he's up to the 34-yard line.
To the tie. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. Of course, everyone wants to talk about the linebacker situation that Alabama has right now. And
KJ Jefferson.
Texas A&M.
There you go. 3rd and 2. We saw it 7 overtimes.
That's surprising.
Rakeem Boyd following Tyson Morris. A helmet comes off. I thought it might be a football for a second. That's a helmet flying off for a defensive player. For KJ Jefferson. Taking the snap, and it's a first down, and Jefferson runs inside the 35 down to the 31-yard line. It's a 17-yard gain for the true freshman. Jefferson again, taking a shot to the end zone. It's caught! Traylon Burks, touchdown. On a negated touchdown to 3rd and 29. Jefferson gets some of it back to Burks. Tee it up here in just a little bit. Get you ready for that one in a second as Boyd already has a 76-yard run. This one might go to the house too. There's a flag down, but Boyd is in the end zone. It would be 86 yards if it stands.
Boyd shaking his head.
There is no foul on the play. The result is a touchdown.
Pick up the flag, and Boyd, who already had a career-long play of the year, sets a new one with 86 yards.
Well, there's your bright spot. He was the lone bright spot in the first half. So far, the little bright spot in the second half. A home run hitter. We talked about it earlier. They were going to try to get the ground game going. And Pitt State drops a game to Minnesota. What chances do they have versus the Buckeyes?
And it's intercepted off the carom. This is picked off by Devin Key, and it's a touchdown. I don't like agreeing across the board, but we're doing it here. I'm going Alabama 48, LSU 45.
Man, that changes tonight.
Jefferson to Burks, and what a catch. You can see the talent, true freshman to true freshman there.
We've seen this connection a couple of times. This one will actually stand. This time we saw that completion.
Touchdown pass to Burks that was negated due to a holding penalty. This is TJ Hammonds. Hammonds, horse collar down, and the flags come flying from everywhere. Devin Key did prevent a touchdown, but committed a personal foul.
Well, as we mentioned, it's been the ground game for Arkansas, but they've been few and far between. Boyd with a couple of long runs, and now Hammonds. You can see why that's such a dangerous tackle.
Personal foul, horse collar tackle, number 2 on the defense. The penalty is half the distance to the goal. First down.
Jay trying again, and this time he's in.
Quarterback right. Alyssa, what do you think with all those spaces that they've had to play at the most important position on the field?
Well, we'll get to her in just a second.
Yeah,
There's a fumble.
not only the quarterback position, but the defense. Ty, this was a big game for you, being able to come home and play against your former team. What did this win mean to you?
This has been one of the coolest experiences of my life, just to be able to come home. I mean, it's been so long since I've been here, and going out like that, that's awesome. Being able to share it with these guys, it's been awesome. It's been cool.
Coach said you guys wanted to come out and be aggressive offensively. What did you think about the way you guys were able to execute that?
We came out, and I thought we executed really well. I mean, put up, 35 points in the first half, and tried to play kind of conservative towards the end, which you kind of have to, and it was good. It was a good win for us.
You guys beat an SEC team to become eligible for the postseason. What does that mean to you?
That's the key right there. Everyone's talking about it on the sidelines, man. We're really excited, and just to keep playing and having a couple more months with these guys.
Ty, congrats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unbelievable day for him, handling himself with class as usual. Didn't win a game in 9 starts last year for the Razorbacks. Beats Arkansas today. Our final score, Western Kentucky 45, Arkansas 19. For Tom Schofield and our entire truck, for Alyssa Lang, Matt Stinchcomb, I'm Taylor Zarzour. We'll be back with more from Fayetteville, but first let's go to our SEC Network studios. Peter Burns, Chris Doring, and Gene Chisholm.
We just saw one game, not exactly what Arkansas Razorback fans were hoping would happen. 45-19 tie story, incredible for Western Kentucky. Gentlemen, we're going to talk to Taylor Zarzour, Matt Stinchcomb a little bit. We'll hear from Chad Morris in his press conference. I really want to hear what he has to say about this one. But, Chiz, what do you take from this game?
Rakeem Boyd. Hey, he ran for a lot of yards today.
Glass half full.
You're the guy on the Titanic playing the violin.
The violin is Look, it's tough. You can't really say anything positive from that game, right? Mm-hmm. You're hoping, even though Western Kentucky is a decent football team, you're hoping you could win. You're hoping that you at least keep it close. Neither one happened.
All right, we'll hear from Chad Morris in his press conference a little bit, but Taylor Zarzour, Matt Stinchcomb, you guys were on the call. You were there all week long. You saw the fans or lack thereof. What was the vibe around just this game in general, gentlemen?
It just seems like a defeated team at the moment, a program that is searching for something positive to happen, and it's a fragile team as well. With anything going wrong, it seems, Stinch, it feels like that leads to a lot of things going wrong.
Yeah, I would describe it as a caustic environment almost. I mean, when you consider the local media, there's not a lot of positivity around this football team right now, and then a performance like today, that's only going to exacerbate that entire scenario. It's just a difficult situation that Arkansas finds themselves in at this stage in the season.
Stench, the ironic part of this whole deal is that
prior to the season, you get Ben Hicks coming over from SMU. You think you're in a great spot there, complimenting Nick Starkel. Now, all of a sudden, they've used 4 quarterbacks on the season, and the guy they had last year comes in and lights them up. Where do they go from here with their quarterback situation?
We've been here 3 times, and the interesting part is that it's been hard to draw a bead on what the future is supposed to be like. At one point, the thought was, even the conversation was, that Nick Starkel was a guy that they could build on going into the future. He just wasn't capable of it right now, physically or mentally. That clearly doesn't seem to be the case. And so, as far as a clear path forward at quarterback for Arkansas, I don't know that there is one. And even after today, what we saw with KJ Jefferson, once he was finally inserted into the lineup, you can see he's somewhat limited. Not from a skill set standpoint, certainly not. But you could see the fact that he sat most of this season. He's been outside or off the carousel, so to speak. Now that he's on it, it's largely too late. So I don't know necessarily where Arkansas goes from here. He's a 4-star recruit, clearly a talented young man. Is he going to be the answer at quarterback going forward? I don't know that there is one this season.
The only thing I can add to that, CD, is that if you had open tryouts between the 4 of them, I think you would say Nick Starkel has the most potential of those 4. But given the way the season's gone, again, going back to the fragility of this program right now, I think anybody's guess is as good as anybody that's in that locker room.
Taylor, you guys meet with the coaches on Friday. You meet with some of the players on Fridays. What's the vibe like with them? The coaches are the ones that they have to be responsible to hold this thing together. The players can get disappointed. The players can get frustrated. But the coaches have to lead that. What was it like when you met with Chad Morris? What was it like when you met with all of the guys that they got to lead this program?
Well, Chiz, kind of like you, Chad's the ultimate positive guy. He's not going to let any sort of negative noise outside the program linger inside. He's always going to believe that there's a sunny day that's going to happen at some point in the future. But when it comes to the players, I think there's kind of a divide, Stinch, between the guys that Brett Bielema recruited and the guys that Chad's recruited. There are 17 true freshmen that were on this depth chart today. Those guys are excited to play some college football. Then you've got the juniors and the seniors that are tired of losing.
Hey, we've met with some seniors, some guys that have been around this program that would predate the current coaching staff. McTelvin Agim being one of them. Rakeem Boyd is a guy that I think has remained upbeat. And then, of course, we've spoken with some of the other guys, including quarterbacks. Ben Hicks comes in here, Bumper Poole's another guy. And none of them have seemed despondent necessarily, but it does seem like it's almost a forced enthusiasm, so to speak. And let's be real, the circumstances would dictate that they would be somewhat down at some point in this season. The losses have piled up. The magnitude of those losses have piled up, and it's clearly taken its toll. You could see early on in this game, Rakeem Boyd rips off the one long touchdown run. Otherwise, there was no bright spot in that first half, and it looked like a defeated football team in the first quarter.
And I just want to add to this. Coach Chizik, you've won national championships. You've also been on teams that have had hard seasons, and you knew that a change was inevitable. I know these guys make lots of money, but this is difficult. And this affects a lot of lives when you're talking about transition, which this program has been through, and who knows if it'll be through it again. The idea that anybody takes any kind of satisfaction out of that, to me, is ridiculous. This is a hard profession. You've lived it. It is a hard thing for all of these people to go through. The highs are great, but the lows, they may sting more than anything.
Gentlemen, well said. And I'll follow up there, which is thank you guys for the call. I know y'all got to get out of town, and we'll talk to Chad Morris or hear from Chad Morris a little bit later. But Chiz, we're speaking about that as we'll get ready for Chad Morris taking the post-game press conference in a little bit. What is it that people don't understand about either the profession or the transition and getting your staff in, and of all the coaching staff being on the same page?
Well, the transition's hard. And again, you're looking at the end of year 2, and what you want to see is hope. You want to see some sort of an ascending something, right? An ascending offense, an ascending defense. The problem is, PB, is we're seeing a lot of the same thing we saw last year. This rotation and revolving door at quarterback. A defense right now that can't get off the field. They continuously give up explosive plays. That's where the frustration lies in, because you don't see any progress. And to me, yes, this is a hard deal getting old players and new players. I thought TZ brought up a great point. You got kind of the old heads the guys that were recruited by a different guy with Brett, right? Now you got Chad's young guys that are coming in. They're ready to play every week because they're 18 years old, CD, and they're like, man, I get to play in a major college football game. And sometimes when you're not winning, those two don't mesh well. It's a little bit of oil and water. So I can tell the vibe there is not good, but the results aren't good either. And that's what's driving everything right now, because right now it's hard to have any hope on what you see on any side of the ball.
I think you can talk X's and O's. You can talk about quarterback. What I want to talk about is something I saw in the middle of the season that I don't see now, and that's fight. Remember that Texas A&M game? That defense played hard. There were guys out there that showed great effort. In that first half, especially today, there was zero fight going on in any of the phases for Arkansas, and that's the problem that I have. A lot of times when you get in these negative roles, guys just want to play the season out and cash it in. But there's guys that are on this team, as you mentioned, the younger guys that are going to be fighting for opportunities to play next year. So if those older guys don't want to play, if they've cashed it in, let's let all the young guys play and try to have something, as you mentioned, that we can build around that's ascending as the season wears on.
A lot of soul searching for this team, for the fan base, for Chad Morris, everyone. They do have a bye week. Let's take a look at their schedule. A bye week to just kind of figure things out and see what direction they want to go in. Also, one of the things that's going to play in here with either KJ Jefferson or John Stephen Jones is the 4-game redshirt rule. Remember, these guys late into the season just can play up to 4 games and still be able to redshirt if they haven't redshirted already.
Yeah, that's a game changer. And again, for a young guy at quarterback, look, these guys coming in this late in the season, they don't want to burn a red shirt, right? Especially on a season that's going this poorly. So look, get them in there, get them some reps. It's like good spring scrimmages, right? Give them a little bit of confidence maybe going into the spring, but you definitely, if you know a guy is going to be a really good player at quarterback, you don't want to burn a red shirt.
Well, it's not going to get easier as they face a couple of set of Tigers.
Cruising along with my friends Doring and Chiswick. Arkansas home for Western Kentucky. Hogs have lost their last 6 games. Ty Storey, former Razorback quarterback, now leading Western Kentucky, and was feeling right at home. And frankly, who wouldn't when there's that much distance between you and a defender? Ja'Cour Pearson touchdown.
Well, again, the Arkansas defense has been very inconsistent all year. That's just another huge example.
You know who's been consistent, though?
Rakeem Boyd's stuff.
Yes, he has.
Despite all of the negativity, every week you turn it on, he's breaking off long runs for the Hogs.
Despite having to deal with Jason Brown at Indy Community College as well. Not a good day, folks, for Chad Morris and the Razorback.
Absolutely. I am the guy. I am. There's no question. I knew that this was going to take some time. I knew that this was going to be a process of recruiting and developing and building and especially in this conference. I knew the strains that take place weekly in this conference, and the depth that it needs to be successful. And right now we don't have that. And we've got to go get that, and we've got to recruit to it, and we've got to continue to develop. And right now it's unfortunate that we're playing as many young guys as we're playing, but that's the truth.
Chad, if you look at the results of Western Kentucky coming in, and nothing in their schedule compares to what they did today to the opponent they played. Can you say that Arkansas is at the bottom of college football right now?
I think that we are in a part of where our program is that we're asking a lot of 18-year-old young men to step in and play against some older guys, and that's there's no excuse in that. But they're having to grow up, and they're having to grow up the hard way, and we're definitely not where we want to be. And as I mentioned earlier, it's disappointing, and we're all frustrated with it. But these young men will continue to grow, and they'll continue to mature and develop.
They have lost 2 home games, one each of the last 2 years to Conference USA teams, North Texas and Western Kentucky, by a combined 89-36. A Razorback alum, guy who played football there, texted me today and said this is the lowest point in the history of Arkansas football. History. How should people feel right now when looking at what's happening?
Disappointed. And look, I listened very closely to that press conference, and he talked about having young guys, 18-year-olds having to play. And you know what that tells me? It tells me you could have a divided locker room, because here's what you got. You got a faction of older guys that weren't recruited by him. And then you got some younger guys, a lot of them, CD, that are playing now that were recruited by him. And that's why I think you're seeing, you don't see any chemistry. You don't see any consistency. You don't see any improvement. There's no confidence in the football team. And that's got to start with the coaches. But right now, I don't see anything. Because, Dari, the only thing anybody wants is hope. And the way they're playing, I don't see any improvement and no ascension anywhere. The offense is not ascending. Give us some bright spots, offensively, defensively. I just don't see it, CD, and it is going to take time, but it's disappointing.
Well, here's the thing. Chad Morris was asked earlier, are you the guy? Now, I don't know if he's the guy or if he's not the guy, but one thing I do know, if you bring a guy in that's known to be able to recruit, you got to let him have his recruits come in and develop a little bit, because if not, you're never going to see the fruits of the labor. And the other thing you're going to do, you get rid of a guy like that now, who wants to go there when a coach doesn't have the security to be there longer than 2 years to actually make a change by recruiting and upgrading the talent level?
I think the Willie Taggart thing at Florida State all of a sudden opens the door to the idea of programs making changes a good precedent within 2 years. No, you don't want that. Everybody here likes Chad. I just hope he stays off of Twitter, because it's not pretty right now as it pertains to Arkansas football.
Good morning. We briefly interrupt programming with breaking news. KATV has learned within the last hour that the University of Arkansas has fired head football coach Chad Morris. The university has since confirmed the news within the last 30 minutes. Athletics Director Hunter Yurachek released this statement, reading in part, quote, I have come to the conclusion that a change in leadership is necessary to move our football program forward and position it for success. The final straw for Chad Morris, a demoralizing loss to Western Kentucky, led by former Razorbacks quarterback Ty Storey. It is the latest loss to a lesser program. In fact, wins by North Texas, San Jose State, and Western Kentucky in Fayetteville define the Morris era, as much as lopsided defeats at the hands of Alabama, Auburn, and others. In all, Morris went just 4-18 as the head coach at Arkansas, 0-for-14 in the SEC, 0-for-15 against Power 5 conference teams. Morris's energy excited fans when he took the job, though things went south in a hurry as the team failed to show signs of progress despite some young talent. Here is a closer look back at his 23 months on the Hill.
We're going to put it in the left lane and pop the clutch and put the hammer down.
In December 2017, an energetic, confident coach with a craze for catchphrases captured Razorback fans eager for some signs of hope.
Let's do this for me. Let's sit up in our chairs. All right, everybody sitting up. Everybody feet on the floor.
A successful Texas high school coach.
To our high school coaches in our state, we're here for you.
He said all the right things.
Best is a standard.
And his role in establishing Clemson and clear creativity.
We got our eyes on a real baller right here.
Gave credence to the idea he could do the same at Arkansas.
This will be one of the most explosive offenses in all of college football.
Morris hired a young offensive staff and an older defensive staff. Collectively, they recruited a top 25 class in their second year. Their connections to Texas and innovative use of social media appear to be paying off, but the young talent on paper amounted to 4 wins in 2 seasons. One of which was celebrated in Club Dub. It never reopened. There were lopsided losses. In fact, roughly a third of the games over the last 2 years were decided by 30 or more points. There were woeful losses to lesser programs, and there were plays so perplexing they came to define the reeling Razorbacks nationally.
It's a fake all the way.
Perhaps most surprising, the supposed offensive innovator never came close to finding consistent quarterback play. As Morris continued to list 2 transfers tops on the depth chart this season, discontent grew among fans.
What's the full screen?
And eventually, decision makers.
I don't have any regrets of not playing him earlier in the season. I thought he played well today. You know, we kept it as simple as possible with him.
With only a handful of wins and fewer signs of the explosive offense he promised, it is a short-lived coaching tenure that never shifted into second gear. The interim head coach for the remainder of the 2019 season will be former Razorback quarterback and current tight ends coach Barry Lunney Jr. A closer look at his record. Morris went 2-10 in 2018, the worst season record-wise in the storied history of Arkansas football. 2-8 this season against a relatively soft schedule does not cut it. We have learned there's a press conference scheduled for tomorrow at noon. We will carry that live right here on Channel 7, and we will, of course, have updates throughout the day as once again, head coach Chad Morris has been fired. Stay with us throughout the day on air, online, and on social media. For now, we return to regularly scheduled programming.
Your news starts now with this special Pig Trail Nation report.
Hello, everyone. Breaking news here in the Pig Trail Nation studio. Chad Morris is out as the head football coach at the University of Arkansas. A record of 4-18 for Morris during his time on the Hill. Mike Irwin, our senior analyst, with us. I'm Drew Bammett here in the Pig Trail Nation. We have our full team in. We have Tara Talmadge as well. We also have Alyssa Orange. And before we get to Tara for a minute, I want to get your take on this, Mike. I think you basically said it best off air, and that is, you know, it was just a question of when this would happen.
You know, it's interesting because last night and even this morning there were some fans still saying on social media, a few of them, that, hey, you got to have more than 2 years. That's what Chad Morris said. And that's kind of a mantra, a thing that you go by. But that's 3 years to get competitive in your own conference. For instance, it took Brett Bielema to his third year to finish third in the SEC West. That's competitive. What's going on here after 2 years is you're still at the bottom of your own league. It's not a matter of becoming sort of competitive. It's a matter of you haven't improved at all. You may have even gone backwards in 2 years. So it was pretty obvious to me that Hunter Yurachek looked at this situation and said, there's no improvement. There should be at least some by now.
Yeah, no SEC wins for Chad Morris during his time at the University of Arkansas. When you look at this, this is a program that obviously now will move forward with the press conference tomorrow. That'll be at noon on the Hill. And that means that now in the interim, the head coach will be Barry Lunney Jr., who is currently on the staff, the tight ends coach, obviously, a guy who played quarterback at the University of Arkansas, also the special teams coordinator for the Razorbacks. For more on the Chad Morris era, let's go to Tara right now. Tara Talmadge, what's up?
Hey guys, well, yeah, the Chad Morris era was very short-lived at Arkansas, but let's take a little look back at exactly why he was hired here.
I do feel like we hit a home run in the hire of Chad Morris.
Just about 2 weeks following the firing of Brett Bielema, Arkansas hired Chad Morris. The interim athletics director, Julie Cromer-Peoples, said the SMU coach was the right fit at the right time.
What made him the great hire for us was his relatability. It didn't take long in the conversation to see immediately how he would be able to come to Arkansas, embrace this community, and how we would be able to embrace him.
One of the biggest reasons for hiring Morris was his relationship with high school coaches. The Texas native coached at numerous high schools and in 16 seasons had a record of 169 wins to 38 losses, including 3 state championships and 3 state runner-up teams as well.
Having been around college football and nearby in Houston for the past few years, I was well aware of Chad Morris. He was a highly successful and innovative high school coach who built an incredible resume before taking his talents to the college game.
The hope was that his time as a high school coach would help him recruit better talent to the Hill.
His relationships with high school coaches, the way he talked about cultivating them, I just feel like it's time for our state to be able to have that kind of person in the head coaching role.
When Chad Morris walks into a high school wearing that Razorback red, there's a great chance that the high school coach already knows him. But more importantly, they know where he comes from, the success he has had, and what he stands for.
Following his high school coaching career, Morris spent time as a coach at Tulsa and then as an offensive coordinator at Clemson. But the Arkansas staff was very impressed by his ability to turn around the program at SMU, where he had a 14-22 overall record during 3 seasons.
You guys may look at his win and loss record at SMU, but you may want to go back one more year. That program was 0-12 in the 2014 season before his arrival.
Previously known as one of the best offensive minds in college football, a guy who ran a fast-paced style offense with an emphasis on the passing game. The staff at Arkansas truly believed Chad Morris would improve the Arkansas program.
I have no doubt we have found the right coach to lead our program. And as a Razorback Nation, we have many things to look forward to as we enter the Chad Morris era.
Pretty interesting looking back on all that sound. Just looking at Twitter, though, right now, we just found out Arkansas has already lost a recruit. Xavier Williams decommitted to Arkansas. And I think that that's something you can't really argue about when it comes to Chad Morris. He did recruit some great talent here. It's a matter of if a lot of those guys are going to continue to come here right now. And also just looking at Devwall Whaley, running back for Arkansas, just tweeted out and said, "You reap what you sow."
Yeah.
That's pretty telling right there.
It is. And Nick Starkel tweeting out, "Thank you, Chad Morris, for the opportunity to let me continue my football career at Arkansas." So again, you know that as this continues, as the day moves on, we're going to hear more and more from players and former players and possibly current players who might decommit. That is just something that you're going to have to handle when you fire a coach.
Right, absolutely. Guys?
Yeah, it's been very fluid, clearly, and you look at the fact Morris never won a road game, and there's just so many things you can go through. But I do want to get to this, Mike, and that is the fact that the way this guy came across. Before I get to my story here, I want to just get your take on the fact that obviously this guy came in, and everybody talked about his swag that he brought, and there are some sayings that he has, and it's the way he brought those out early and often. But your take on that?
Well, I would think it would be a good thing for the next head coach to not come in with a lot of slogans. Don't come in with a lot of hype before you play that first game, and that's what happened. The left lane hammer down thing, quickly we realized that wasn't what we had, and when you kind of pump that for about 4 or 5 months in the off season that first year, and then you get to the reality that's not what it is. It's kind of a downer, and that it really started them off. I think it started in that Colorado State game on the road when he had been using Devwall Whaley to pound those guys, and he gets across midfield in a 4th and 1 or 2 situation. All you got to do is give the ball to him. He's probably going to get the first down, and you don't go for it, and that turns the whole game around. And people were like, "Well, that's not left lane hammer down." So it is interesting that some of the players are already starting to tweet that they've lost a commitment. Look, that's going to happen. Here's the problem. Here's the challenge of the next head coach, because I've been through a few of these coaching changes. If you hire the right guy, he's going to come back in here and have a period of time to try and contact some of these guys and bring them back into the fold, and he'll also bring some of his own recruits in. That always happens. The big issue is how many players are going to hit the transfer portal. Right. And he's going to have to talk some of them out, because what I'm hearing is they're really going to try to work out a deal with whoever they hire to replace Chad Morris to have Jeff Traylor remain on this staff, because he's the main Texas recruiter. He's the guy that has a relationship with all these guys that are freshmen and sophomores that they brought in over the last 2 years, and they believe if he's still on staff, he can talk them out of that portal or talk them from entering the portal.
Just in terms of retention, but let's talk about Morris-isms, the Morris-isms that I alluded to as we go back to December of 2017. And for more on that, let's get to that right now.
We want to win. Make no mistake about it. We're here to win. We want to win. We want to win championships. And that's what we're going to do.
When Chad Morris first met with his players at Arkansas, he said he had the blueprint to win a national championship.
We're supposed to put it in the left lane and put the hammer down.
Then this, from his first press conference on the Hill.
The one thing you'll never have to do is you'll never have to tell me go. You may have to tell me whoa, but you won't ever have to tell me go.
Morris never won an SEC game at Arkansas, but let's rewind again to early December 2017.
We get to do something special in the greatest conference in the country and build one of the greatest programs in the country. We will become the model program for all others to follow.
Instead, it's a program ranking consistently near the bottom of the SEC in scoring and total offense, contrary to Morris's promises.
Offensively, you won't find a more explosive offense in all of college football. You'll see an exciting brand of football that'll be spread sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone. There won't be many time to sit in your seats. We'll go fast, we'll play fast, and we'll have fun doing it.
As for the other side of the ball, Arkansas entered its final 3 games of the season ranked last in the SEC in scoring defense and rushing defense. Remember this statement from Morris less than 2 years ago?
We'll be built around stopping the run. In this conference, you have to stop the run. I firmly believe that. I'll hire the best defensive coordinator in all of college football, because best is a standard at the University of Arkansas.
But They are the worst in the SEC. So as we move forward, we bring in Alyssa Orange. And Alyssa, let's kind of talk about the fact that his body of work was so brutal at Arkansas. We all know that, but you have more on that right now.
It was hard, despite bringing in, Tara, some of the best recruiting class in Arkansas history in 2019. Chad Morris couldn't find success on the field, and I've broken it down for you a little bit. 4 of 8 at home, 4-18 in his 2 seasons, winless in the SEC, and still, again, does not have a Power 5 win as a head coach at Arkansas or SMU. And 7 of the games the Razorbacks lost were by 30 points or more.
Catch out of the 10-yard line there by Keegan Brewer. So North Texas has come into Fayetteville and shown no
he never
signs
made a
of
fair catch
he didn't
sign.
make a fair catch signal.
He's gone.
Line. This is going to be a touchdown.
Well, those were some of those, of course. We ended with the North Texas, one of maybe the worst losses.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Under Chad Morris. We want to take a look now. Here are some of the coaching record lows. And if you look, Tara, in history of the worst records in Arkansas history, Otis Douglas back in 1950 to 1952 was 9-21. Jack Crow, 9-15 from 1990 to 92. Joe Kynes, 3-6-1 in 1992 in his 1 year as a head coach. And to compare it to Brett Bielema, granted he did get 5 years. Yeah. Brett Bielema was only 29-34 from 2013 to 17. Chad, as we mentioned, 4-18. Drew, just a glimpse at what Chad Morris is compared to other head coaches in this program's history.
Yeah, appreciate that, Alyssa. You know, when you think about it, we were on the field day at Razorback Stadium when Brett Bielema was let go immediately following that football game in 2017. I mean, he walks off the field, they let him know you're done after 5 years on the Hill, 29-34 record, as Alyssa mentioned. And we talk about the power style, using the fullback that Brett Bielema wanted to bring, and everybody at that point, by 2017, when he had only won 4 games that season, was just done with it. And you made the point that obviously now what typically happens is a changing of the guard. You want to go now to up-tempo and go as fast as possible, as Morris continued to allude to there in that intro press conference. But now it's, let's segue to the quarterback and what happened here with the mismanagement.
Well, you talked about the Morris-isms that all, when we saw that, what was your first thought? That they were nothing like that. That's just, how did that happen? How was he so confident that they would spread it sideline to sideline and end zone to end zone, and it usually ended up within 2 or 3 yards of the line of scrimmage? Yeah. How did that happen? Well, I believe Chad Morris would still be the head coach at Arkansas if he could have managed his quarterbacks more than any other problem. This one was obvious, and it started before his first game here when he and offensive coordinator Joe Craddock named Cole Kelly the starter for the first game, but then quickly had to go to Ty Story, who played well in a win against Eastern Illinois. But then right after that, in practice, we start this quarterback carousel that continued for 2 years.
This Saturday, we're going to plan to play both of these quarterbacks. They'll both play. Ty will get the first team reps starting tomorrow in practice, and we'll reevaluate things as practice goes. But I think Ty has earned that right.
But he would not finish the game, completing just 5 of 13 passes for 36 yards and 2 picks. Kelly finished it and was 6 for 9 for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns, prompting complaints that had Morris gone to him sooner, Arkansas might have won. So it was back to Kelly again against North Texas, but he threw 4 picks, and it wasn't Story who came in late in this one, but 2 freshmen, Connor Nolan and John Stephen Jones.
I was trying to get to the point of staying with one guy as long as we could, and with hopes to give the entire game to Cole. Cole had the better week of practice and made the decision to stay with Cole in the second half. The game situation and circumstances with the interception and them going down and scoring, I wanted to go with Connor Nolan. I did not want to put Ty in that situation.
At that point, it was back to Story, and even though he didn't win a game as the starter, there was at least stability at the position. And Story showed progress, throwing for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns against Alabama while running for 42 more. Arkansas had Ole Miss on the ropes a week later, and Morris would have likely had his only SEC win had Story not been knocked out of the game with a concussion. One of the few bright spots came next as Nolan earned the start with Story sitting out due to that concussion. He went 10 of 16 through the air for 121 yards and a touchdown and rushed for 20 more yards in a 23-0 win over Tulsa.
I'm very proud of his fight, considering after the first drive, he had an interception. He came right back over the sidelines and did not face him one bit. That says a lot about a young man that's a competitor.
But Nolan would only make one more appearance as a Razorback briefly toward the end of a blowout loss to Missouri to end the season. Story never seemed to get the momentum back that he had built up before that concussion as Arkansas finished 2-10 in Morris's first season on the Hill.
We just couldn't climb the hill, and I played a lot of freshmen today, which will benefit this program moving forward.
Story would transfer out after Morris brought in Ben Hicks, his starting quarterback at SMU. Nick Starkel was also added, and it appeared that between the two, Morris would finally have a quarterback to run his offense in year 2. But Hicks began the 2019 season with red zone issues, and Starkel was turnover prone. The starting quarterback carousel got worse as Hicks and Starkel spent a good portion of the season trading places while fans began calling for Jones and true freshman K.J. Jefferson. They were run-pass quarterbacks. Was that not the problem all along? Well, Jones finally made a successful appearance against Alabama, but Hicks remained the starter through a miserable effort against Mississippi State. And then came that roar. Jefferson finally made it to the field in the fourth quarter of that game, and he promptly showed what he could do. But Morris stoked more controversy when after the game he said this about what Jefferson had done.
I don't have any regrets of not playing him earlier in the season. I thought he played well today. I thought he did some, we kept it as simple as possible with him.
So you have a coaching issue, clearly. Yeah. When you watched High Story yesterday, you saw how much he developed under another coach running essentially that same offense. But second to the coaching issues to me was a head coach that was never good at press conferences. Again, I've had people that knew him at SMU saying he basically didn't have to do those things there. Not like he does here. And he just, to me, was tone deaf. When you make a statement like he just made right there, when you appear to be trying to explain why you didn't play this guy by insinuating he doesn't know much, and even if technically that's correct, it's not the same thing you should say. And he was still doing it yesterday when he talked about our deficiencies. We have to go recruit to our deficiencies. Wait a minute, you spent all this time telling us that what we really had was players that were just too young, so they're going to get older, but now you're telling me they're deficient. And as I said yesterday, there are a lot of people out there that believe the deficiency was with the head coach and maybe some of his other coaches, not all of them, not necessarily with these players.
I think translation, it's a very cosmetic, visual age that we're in. You have to be very careful with the words that you choose and the messages that you throw out there. And having said that, you look at SMU, and Tara made a great point when Chad was hired. You know, it's hard to win at SMU. But here's the scenario. What comes with that when you're at SMU? Well, coverage or lack thereof. Because in that area, obviously SMU's having a great year this year, but the coverage, because you have the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Mavericks, and you can go on and on and on, it's such a pro city. You know, SMU kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So, you know, you kind of wonder, how's Chad going to deal with the media when he comes to Arkansas? He comes to Arkansas, and he's so tight to the vest. It was cliche city, and that bothered me time and again. I said it off air all the time in this office. Speak from the heart. I mean, it was so scripted that it frustrated me because on and on and on. Not only was he extremely late to press conferences, they typically have about a 15-minute cooling off period, but we got so frustrated because he was late to the press conferences, and then he comes in, and his message is so much a cliche that you just don't really know where this football team is. And again, it's really not as genuine as you would think from Chad Morris, who supposedly is so genuine as far as recruiting goes. I know those are kind of two different things, but at the same point in time, they're one and the same, because I just didn't feel like he was very genuine with the media.
And even with his offensive coordinator, Joe Craddock, you get the same thing. There are these gaffes. Craddock, when it was asked after those two freshman quarterback, the redshirt freshman and the true freshman, had performed well, explain how having a run-pass guy works in your offense. And basically he just said, well, we've always had that. Really? Well, we haven't had that here. So if that's important, why haven't you had it here? Now, we saw a little bit yesterday of they clearly need more work, but why didn't they get more work earlier in the year? But these are all questions fans are asking, and now it really doesn't matter, because very quickly after this, we're going to have to move ahead and start focusing on the next coach.
Yeah, let's go to Alyssa right now. I want to get Alyssa's quick take on that, just in terms of the QB situation, because you were very adamant about what was going on. You were, let me just say, animated there on the car ride back from Alabama. You're like, where's KJ Jefferson? So kind of speak to that, and obviously just the QB mismanagement that I mentioned.
Well, I think, again, you go into Alabama and you just want to see KJ at that point. There was a lot of KJ Jefferson chants the game before against Auburn. Don't know why Ben Hicks played that whole game. When you talk about QB management, that would have been a perfect example to play John Stephen Jones and KJ Jefferson. A lot of my frustration was just with the red shirt rule. And again, in my opinion, you couldn't bank on those last 4 games being games you could play the guys you hadn't played yet. And people just wanted to see what KJ looked like. And I think when he came in and showed us what he was able to accomplish on the field against Mississippi State, I remember standing beside Mike, and I just turned and I kind of looked at him, and Mike goes, hey, I'm not the head coach, and he's not. But I think that was the point, is if you just give this guy a shot, get him out there, get him some reps, let's see what he can do. Hindsight, I'm not a head coach, but hindsight, I'd have loved Morris to start KJ Jefferson from the beginning. He might have gotten a lot more sympathy because he is playing a freshman quarterback, and some fans might have been like, you know what, it's okay, we understand he's a freshman, and we're going to give him a little bit of time in that learning curve in the SEC in his first season of college football. It'd be interesting to see what would have happened had KJ started the beginning of the year.
No, I agree, and I think it's also just a mismanagement of players in general, not just the young ones. I mean, you had Devwah Whaley yesterday only get like 1 touch on senior day. How is that possible? And Rakeem Boyd only 8. It just doesn't make sense. There are certain things that could have been avoided in this entire 2 seasons, and it's disappointing because I think fans were really hopeful. I was hopeful when Chad Morris came in and what he brought to the table, and it just never got rolling.
Yeah, it didn't really work. And again, I'm wondering if had Chad Morris made some decision changes with maybe his offensive coordinator Joe Craddock or with his defensive coordinator John Chavis before this season, if he wouldn't have lost his job, because he showed some change. And I wonder if he was given the option, but again, I said it yesterday on our Facebook Live, I think that option had gone past Chad Morris at that point yesterday afternoon. But I think that we, in my opinion, had an offensive coordinator who was maybe in a little too big over his head.
Regardless, it was very, very clear over the past 2 weeks that this was not working. And like Mike said earlier, this team has actually regressed and gone backwards in its 2 seasons under Chad Morris.
Yeah, it's really sad. We talk about regressing and going backwards. The bad losses just continuing to pile up. Again, let's try to show you some of those bad losses in Chad Morris's career. The bad losses starting early in year 1, Arkansas at Colorado State. With a 10-point lead heading into the 4th, the Rams scoring 17 unanswered points to shock the Hogs 32-27. Then came North Texas and the infamous fake fair catch. It was one of the many embarrassing moments of their 44-17 loss.
Oh, he didn't make a fair catch signal. He's gone. Brewer down the sideline. This is going to be a touchdown.
Vanderbilt came to town in October. The only time Arkansas led in this one was when it was 7-0 to start it off. The Commodores stole a home game from the Hogs 45-31. 2018 ended with back-to-back blowouts against conference opponents on the road. Mississippi State shut them down 52-6. Then Missouri in the pouring rain. The Razorbacks shut out in Columbia 38-0.
Everyone's going to be held accountable from me down. I'm going to hold every coach. I'm going to hold every player. Every staff member is going to be held accountable. Totally unacceptable.
That was Coach Morris after the loss to San Jose State. The Spartans left the Hogs speechless, coming in and winning 31-27.
27-24. Kentucky was an opportunity for Morris to win an SEC game, and with a wide receiver playing quarterback, it seemed like a win. That wasn't the case. Lynn Bowden rushed for 196 yards. The Wildcats won 24-20. This year, Mississippi State came to Fayetteville, and the team wanting some revenge from 2018. Too bad. The Bulldogs putting up 640 total yards of offense to win 54-24.
Living those games, but results on the field matter, Tara. And as you look back on those games, North Texas was bad, but in my opinion, the worst loss for me was Kentucky. I don't think I was more upset after a game than at Kentucky on the road. When you're up early 14-0 and you let Kentucky come back in a game that could have been, should have been Morris's first SEC win.
Yeah, they just kept finding ways to beat themselves. I think the worst win, in my opinion, was honestly yesterday to Western Kentucky. I mean, that North Texas game definitely sticks out just because of the way they lost. And I think that that's really the song of this entire thing. It's the way that they lost. They continued to just get upset. And what was frustrating to me is you see them play against Texas A&M and earlier in the season, and you see what they're capable of. Even though they didn't win against A&M either years, they played and they competed.
Yeah.
And then rest of the year, we got nothing.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand it.
Hard pill to swallow there, Drew.
You said it right there. It's the way with which they lost.
Right.
I mean, if you go back to the bye week, everybody's like, maybe this team's starting to turn the corner.
Yeah.
Then you face Kentucky, and as Alyssa mentioned, you go to Kentucky, you think, okay, very winnable football game, and Lynn Bowden, who is a receiver, he plays quarterback, and he runs all over you. And so, moral of the story, collectively, Arkansas does not improve whatsoever since the bye week, Mike.
Well, think about how we all understand how it works with players. Who doesn't understand this? If you are a starter and you go out and don't perform, you're going to be on the bench and somebody else is going to be out there playing. This happens to coaches. Now, it's a little more permanent with them. They don't have the opportunity to go to the bench and come back out there. But they're not sent to the bench but one time. So they're given a lot more leeway for lack of success than a starting player. You look at the back and forth with these starting quarterbacks this year. Back and forth and back and forth. You know, Morris, all of that is associated with he and Joe Craddock. But they only went to the bench one time. Now. That was it. That's their going to the bench. But it's the same process. The object of the game, there's a lot of other things that go with it. You know, teaching character, allowing kids, and you'll see this, kids will come back years later as adults and say, you grew me into a man, you did all that's important. But in the end, you have to win games. Because if you don't, nobody's in the stands like yesterday, and you generate no revenue. So, come on.
And this guy right here, Barry Lunny Jr., who is on the staff as the interim head coach, as Arkansas will play 2 more games this season. Arkansas 2-8 on the season, and we're in the bye week now. Barry, speak to this, Mike, obviously knowing that this guy's an Arkansas guy. I mean, he knows what it's all about here on the Hill.
Again, there's always been this thing for the last several years of we need Arkansas people. We got under Jeff Long, we got away from that. There are a lot of people that didn't want Yurachek just from the simple standpoint that he didn't have Arkansas ties. You can go too far with that, but I do understand the sentiment that you need somebody that understands the culture here. He was a quarterback here, a starting quarterback. He grew up in this state. He's been with 2 staffs now, and maybe a third, I don't know. But that was a logical choice. Plus, to be honest with you, if you look back over these 2 years, where is the success? Well, I would say there's been success at tight end. You know, he struggled with CJ, but I don't think that was Barry Lunny. He went back and forth and motivated that kid and got him going again, and then he fell back, then he got him going again. And honestly, he was their best offensive weapon this year until whatever happened recently ended all that.
Yeah, I mean, you go back through the years. Obviously, Hunter Henry, the guy who won the Mackey Award, I mean, you know, that was on Barry Lunny Jr.'s watch. And, you know, you look at the scope of what he's been able to do here at Arkansas in that development process. Now, looking at the scope of this tight ends group this season, you wanted to get more improvement and more production from Grayson Gunter. Chase Harrell made a position switch from receiver to tight end. It didn't happen. CJ, obviously, no longer with the Razorbacks. So, I mean, a lot of that goes into, okay, what do you say about that? I mean, is it just because you got to only key on one guy? But again, Barry obviously did a great job with these guys. And he's no nonsense. He's got that blue-collar mentality I like.
Well, fans know him. They relate to him. They relate to his dad. And I really believe that this is a guy that has always, and I keep talking to people about this. You can talk to Otis about this later on in this week. Barry was a guy who was very good with the recruits when they come in. So you want somebody like that right now calling up current recruits and saying, hey, hang on there. Don't abandon us. We're going to bring in a coach that can win. I'm still going to be here, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's why they did that. And I think it was a smart move. Now, if they figured out a way to keep Jeff Traylor, that's going to be the other smart move because he's the key to those Texas recruits.
Yeah. Well, listen, Terry, your take on that. Obviously, you're over there a lot with the press conferences, and Barry Lundy Jr., you know, I like the energy he brings. I mean, he's somebody I really enjoy interviewing, but he's in the interim right now.
Yeah. My big question with all of that is, so he's got a really good relationship with C.J. O'Grady. Does he come back now? Is he still off the team? We'll see. Well, I know. But I like the move. I think it's probably a smart move. The other option obviously would have been Jeff Traylor, who, like Mike mentioned, keeping him on staff would be a big time move for Arkansas.
When you say Barry Lunny, he's grandfathered in really into this program. I don't think Barry Lunny is going to go anywhere. And I agree with you with Jeff Traylor. And if you look at it, you want to keep Arkansas guys in Arkansas. That's what Barry Lunny Jr. is for. And if you want guys in Texas, especially East Texas, that's what Jeff Traylor is for. So if you're smart, you keep those. One thing I do want to talk about, because we haven't, I've been able to talk to some parents, guys, while we were getting ready, while all of this news was breaking. And I know that the players were texted by Hunter Yurachek, the news, after some reports had come out. He sent a text message letting them know that it was actually going to happen and accurate. And then there will be a players-only meeting with Hunter Yurachek tonight at 7 p.m. I was told the players originally had this day off.
Yeah, interesting to just get that text message. But we're going to continue our coverage on our Facebook page, on our website, nwahomepage.com. So be sure to check that out as well.
I am the guy. I am. There's no question.
Well, that was Chad Morris making a plea to Hunter Yurachek yesterday. This is the scene tonight as Razorback football players make their way into the Smith Center to meet with the Arkansas Athletics Director. And guys, the guys we seldom think about are the players, and one tweet hit me tonight when Cam Curl said, I'll be playing for my third head coach. It's hard to just believe that.
Well, you know, this day and age, there's a lot of big money at stake, Bruce, and I think when you looked at this situation, you saw half a stadium, less than half a stadium, saw money being lost and embarrassment. Boosters are complaining, and so I think they were forced to go, we have to make a change.
The manner in which this fan base was united, Bruce, it seemed like. I mean, the argument to keep him, I almost heard none from fans.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that. That's been historically the way it is in Arkansas, okay? It's just that way. But what my biggest concern was that Chad Morris was hired to recruit Texas players. Everybody knew that if you go back historically, all the way back with any great Arkansas success in the 60s, 70s, whatever, you can look at the roster was loaded with Texans. Consequently, we had not been getting those players, so we hired a guy that came highly recommended from Clemson, then SMU, but the key to getting players to come to Arkansas. You cannot win in the SEC without very, very good football players. You can't coach up a bunch of average players and win in the SEC West. So whatever person is coming in now has got a big job, because you got to get your players from out of state. It's not produced in this state. It never really has. 4 or 5 a year maybe. So consequently, whoever's coming in better be a great recruiter, or we're going to fall even further behind, because we're not going to have that top 25 class like we did last year.
Can I make an analogy, one comparison, Bruce? I think you would agree. You look at what Jeremy Pruitt has done at Tennessee. They were ready to run him out of town, just like Chad Morris. But what happened, that same freshman and sophomore classes, the same time he came in with Chad Morris, they started developing this year. And they've gotten better. They've won 4 or 5 and get ready to go to a bowl game.
Talk about this. Competitive against Texas A&M, could have won that game. Competitive against Kentucky, then this thing went off the cliff. You guys played. How does that happen?
No, they quit. I mean, it's obvious. When you watch, you could see the players not wanting to play. You could see players absolutely
why does that happen?
Because I think that there was a lot of players did not like the fact that youth became a factor. The older players that were left by Bielema did not like the fact that some of these younger players are coming in getting playing times. What I'm told that started the whole thing. So basically, when you quit playing, you're going to get your coach fired if you're losing ball games. I mean,
what do you do about that?
Well, that's why he got fired. He couldn't. I mean, it was recognized, and I don't know how he addressed it. I know how Chavis would address it, and that would be, I don't care if I'm going to lose. I'm not going to lose with y'all. You're not going to run this ship. I am. I don't think that Coach Morris was able to get a handle on it. I don't think he could ever satisfy all the needs. I thought he was soft, but he kept using the word fragile. Yeah. Fragile meant that his football team was ready to go in areas that he couldn't control or whatever. Yeah, and that was
also sort of fed to him. I think reporters fed him the word fragile. How fragile is this football team?
Which I hate.
That was the jumping
Which I hate.
I've never but he didn't do himself any service either with the way he handled the media. It was always, gosh, going back to the beginning here, just talking about injuries. It was anybody's guess who was playing. Yeah. We found out things based on what players were tweeting. That's maybe more of a selfish thing for us, right? But then in the press conferences, I think there's a better way to answer questions, and especially as you start to have some adversity here late in the season. You know, I think he did as well as he could defending himself yesterday, but that was probably the best he done, and it was too little too late.
I agree with you totally, Kyle. His communication process with the press and with anything, I mean, he just wasn't very good at it. I mean, he literally looked uncomfortable, and he didn't seem to be able to project to the fan base what his game plan was, what he was going to do. He couldn't get it in there. I don't know the exact problem of that. He just doesn't seem to be a communicator. He doesn't seem to be comfortable talking to the press, nor to anybody, I guess.
When you hit the coaching jackpot, just put yourself in his spot. You're going to surround yourself with the best possible people. And you can look back now, should he have brought his young coaches from SMU with him? And I'm away from Bruce, so I want to mention John Chavis. I know how you guys love John Chavis, but do you think he was the best fit for this program at this time?
I think John Chavis gave immediate credibility to Morris. He won the Bras Award. Yeah. He is a legend outside of this state. But he helped with recruiting.
Do you think he was the best fit on the field for this team?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think, Baz?
Can I tell you, I have no idea, Bruce. When I turn on the film and see, players not executing, you wonder, do we have bad players? Are they not listening to the coaching? I don't know. I don't know what to think.
Well, all I can tell you is Chavis has got about 28 players in the NFL. If you go anywhere where he's been, Tennessee, LSU, he's the savior.
You think it's just a talent issue?
No, I can tell you this. He's made a comment to people that I know at LSU that this is the least amount of talent that he's ever worked with in 43 years. Yeah. That's his assessment.
Still the losses, still the numbers to some of these teams, right? I mean, San Jose, even with that, losing at home to San Jose State.
Well, look, excuse me. It doesn't matter who you lose to. I mean, because San Jose State beat Army. Appalachia State beat South Carolina. I mean, it
happens, for sure.
In other words, if you allow it to happen, if you go out there and you don't play to the best of your ability, some of these small schools can beat you every week. I mean, it happens. But the problem was we absolutely 100% quit playing football at the end of the Kentucky game.
Is that a head coach thing, you think?
Yes.
That yes. comes from the head coach?
And one question, if he gets, one thing I just assumed when he was hired, the offense would be immediately better, and if anybody could find a quarterback, it was Chad Morris, and it just blew my mind, and it might have cost him the job, because when you're looking at a program, the first guy that jumps out at you is that quarterback, that it was a wheel of 7 quarterbacks, and he couldn't find his guy.
Saw it last year and saw it this year.
And then Chad Morris on the same day watches, Ty Story and Cole Kelly tear it up.
Well, here's the other thing. If you go back with Ty Story, he had 9 opportunities to win a football game at Arkansas as a quarterback, and he didn't win one of them. So he was put with an offensive line last year that the same. I mean, we were horrible. We didn't give any of these Go back and watch.
Kai Story did win one game.
He did?
Yeah, he came in relief and won the East
Oh,
Illinois
I'm
game.
talking about as a starter.
Okay.
As a starter. Okay, look at his offensive line he had at Western Kentucky. They even made a comment about they were 4-year starters.
Yeah.
Look at the amount of time that they gave him to throw against us.
Yeah.
The old saying is you give a good quarterback 3 seconds and he'll beat you if you don't get to him. I was counting 5 and 6 seconds.
So he was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's make the point now too. I wanted to make the offensive eight. We've been hearing about, oh my gosh, Hicks and Starkel are terrible. You got the two quarterbacks in there yesterday. They amounted for 87 yards passing.
When they had their opportunity, neither performed any better than Kai Story.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
that was the one thing when he pointed this team was going to be better. It was get better quarterback play.
Well, that's what he did at Clemson.
Where were those two on Saturday?
I still say that the quarterbacks were absolutely. I mean, they were harassed. They didn't have time to throw the football. Yeah. A lot of things that a lot of receivers dropped passes. There was a lot of. They're just take anything you want to pick out of the offense, and it was an issue, with the exception of number 5.
That's right.
Who's
and the tight end, who's not there anymore.
I thought you had a great analogy to what ended Bielema's tenure. Was the lack. The one thing you would think that a Brett Bielema team would be offensive line.
Can I tell you? That's where this started. That's where this program went down the tubes.
Absolutely agree with you, David. That was the beginning of the end.
But how about hog teams with great defenses? I mean, this has been embarrassing.
I'm telling you, I watched the film.
When was the last time we had one?
Yeah, well, that should be an emphasis.
Bruce, I watched the film and I'm seeing linebackers cross over or go in the wrong hole. I'm like, either one, they're not listening, or I just don't understand why they can't execute. Some of it's football IQ. Maybe you should have when you come into the program. I don't know.
Well, you should have had breaking down.
How many years have we been talking about setting the edge?
Oh, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was not Chavis here 6 or 7 years ago. We've had that issue forever. But you played linebacker. You and I have watched the films and everything. It's basic high school stuff that you do. Now, talk about Chavis all you want to. That's fine. I know that Caldwell is a fundamental coach. Yeah. I know that he knows how to coach football and coach fundamentals. So he's on that staff working every day. So this isn't just Chavis. I mean, that defense has got 3 guys out there.
Yeah, right. And they could allow 110 points per game. If they were scoring 45 or 50 per game, Morris is still the head coach, because you have something you can hang your hat on. But the one thing you promised, because then people would just be saying, boy, if they can just get a better defense, look at what Arkansas can do next year. But right now, it's just hard to hang your hat on.
Well, again, I think the big thing in this is Bruce, I think that where you had to cut the tie was, at this point in the second year, you can't get embarrassed by Western Kentucky. I mean, that's what it boiled down to. We talked about winning the 4 non-conference games. And I think if he wins it, he's still here. If he wins it,
it was worse than embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
He dominated.
You talk at previous coaches, Houston Nutt. One thing he did, he was 20-1 in his non-conference games.
Yeah.
Brett Bielema was 14-2.
Well, and you had 2 years of this. You had North Texas. You had Colorado State. You had San Jose State.
2-4 against Group of 5 schools.
Yeah. And it's amazing how those losses stand out better than wins.
It's hard to name a win.
There are 4 of them.
In all fairness, Coach Nutt had a lot of great talent.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, he recruited guys that were football players like Tony Bua, Olajubudu, that maybe didn't fit the frame, and I think we get caught up now on these guys who have the measurables and they got the stars.
Let me ask you this: I play for Holston Hatfield. You play for Broyles. I mean, isn't there something too that the team takes on the personality of their coach? I like Chad Morris, but I didn't feel there was an edge. I didn't feel there was a fear factor with Chad as much as maybe. I don't know. We were on the field the other day, and there was a player with his camera out or his phone out.
Player with the cell phone.
I was like, would you do that with Nick Saban out there? It just the Bieber shirt. Remember where it all came apart after the club dub?
I think he was intimidated by his own players. I mean, I think I really do. And no, I totally agree with that. He didn't have the bite of most coaches. I don't know what the issue was. Maybe, like I said, maybe it was a situation that he was trying to keep players from quitting or whatever. But I totally agree with the assessment that he did not come across as a disciplinary.
Right.
Yeah.
Bending over backwards in part to keep these guys happy and get future guys here.
You can't do that.
If you had to draw up the perfect coach for Arkansas, what are you looking for?
Why do you keep making me? Put me over here. I know why I'm sitting over here, because you're going to lean
Hey, but you talked about, we teased it, thinking outside the box like he did with Musselman. Boy, Joe Brady, especially in the South, the SEC, would be, he's on the list, but he'd be an incredible hire. For those that don't know.
Okay, so here's some of the names. Venables.
Venables is out.
Venables is out.
Venables is out.
Okay, you have a relationship with him through the Broyles Award. Mike Norvell is going to be the popular, obvious name.
Yes.
And they probably could have had a run at him 2 years ago. Hugh Freeze comes with a lot of baggage.
He wants the job.
He wants any job.
Yeah, sure. That's understandable. He's at Liberty.
He's already messaging Baz.
Mike Leach is one of those. I mean, I guess he wins with less and puts up gaudy offensive numbers, but I mean.
I don't think he's the guy.
Yeah, I don't either.
He would not work in this state.
Yeah.
Dow Loggins would follow sort of the Musselman, that pro. He's with the Jets right now.
And he was a Razorback, which I think would hit home, strike a chord with some fans.
I'm going to go back and give you my opinion on what we need. We're going to have, any football team, I don't care who it is, if it's Pee-wee football or professional football, number one is the natural resource. The natural resource is the player. And more so than anything else, you are got to have a coach that can get players here. Even if he isn't a great coach, if he's a great recruiter, he can hire the coaches and delegate. But he's got to be able to get players,
We've seen the CEO style work now in college football. Right is sort of what you're getting at.
Yeah, I think so.
But here's the deal. There's no home run. We did this 2 years ago.
There's nobody out there.
There's no home run perfect hire.
Don't worry about winning the press conference, the hammer down and all that stuff. Just come back.
Propelling down at Verizon Arena.
But I will say this, there are coaches who want this job. We mentioned that. Everybody on that list wants this job. So let me ask you this, and I'll guarantee there are more than what we mentioned. For example, you know who Hunter Yurachek?
We had other ones here,
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill Clark, UAB.
UAB, good coach.
Drinkwitz at App State.
Got a connection with Arkansas. Was at Springdale High School at Arkansas State.
Billy Napier.
Louisiana.
Sam Pittman. We have talked about offensive line.
Not as a head coach.
No. Pay $2 million.
Hey, why isn't Blake Anderson on more lists? I mean, here's a guy with successful offensive coordinator.
He probably doesn't want to. He's got a better deal going now.
He's brought stability to Arkansas State.
Okay,
why would he want to leave?
Let me just throw out just an example.
Okay.
Just an example of how I think people see this job as maybe very challenging.
Yeah.
But it's a $3.5 million, $4 million a year job. It's in the most prestigious. So you know who Hunter Yurachek went after a few years ago at Houston, right? Who would probably try. I don't think it would fit. But there's these kind of coaches out there. Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Those guys,
that's right.
I don't think they're fits with us, but I'm just telling you, there's coaches that would want this opportunity. I don't think they're fits with us.
We're not close enough to a coastline for Kiffin. He likes to be in L.A. on the beach, or he wants to be down in Boca.
But if he doesn't feel like he gets another chance, I'm just telling you, I think there are guys like that would want to have the opportunity. Now, would they take it? I don't know, but they would sniff at it.
They're big names, and there's a part of me that feels like, boy, if Arkansas settles for sort of another up-and-comer, I don't know if happy fans would be right or wrong. I don't think Chad Morris was on anybody's list. And fans did not know how to feel about him when he was hired. They were excited after that first press conference. It sort of feels to me like you need a name, right or wrong.
I don't know, but this isn't an instant fix. I mean,
that's what Chad Morris said Saturday. He kept saying,
but there's more talent here now than there was 2 years ago.
Oh, but it's about to change.
If you could keep some of these guys here.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key, because I'm telling you, if I'm a freshman football player that came from Louisiana or Mississippi or Alabama, and the guy that I came for just got fired, I'm probably gone.
I will say this though, going back to it, Bruce got a chance to play under there's a Broyles Award for a reason. Yeah. Bruce played under great assistant coaches. I had great assistant coaches. Whoever the coach is, better have him some great assistant coaches who run the program.
Well, I think that goes back to Chad Morris. Well, you're taking his young guys. You want to be loyal to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think that's where maybe there was a problem there.
And you got the connection between the offensive, defensive staffs that come from different worlds. We can hash this out.
I just don't feel this team was tough. As tough as they could be.
No, they weren't mentally tough.
Fighters,
no mental toughness whatsoever. Something go wrong, that was it. I mean, no, they weren't mentally tough at all, and I mean, I didn't think they were prideful. I mean,
and not everybody, but there are multiple players who were that way.
We all know this. It only takes 4 or 5 not to want to play, and you're going to get beat. But if you're prideful and you're really you are so excited about being a Razorback, you got pride. It really doesn't matter who's coaching you. When you're on the field and it's one-on-one, you don't get beat. And all I saw was, Mississippi State running over linebackers. I'd see the linebacker get up and, basically his body language. I mean, I just saw things that I thought, man, this is not even big-time football. These kids are not excited to be a Razorback. So they're not. There's no heart in them. There's no fight in them.
I think that leads into this. We captured some tweets. There was players were putting all kinds of stuff out there on social media, and I think we can pull some of those up. Nick Starkel, I think, was sort of the only one who said, thank you, Coach, here. Forever grateful for the opportunity you gave me to play the game I love. The other ones were not so kind, and I think they sort of, Bruce, branch off what you're getting at. This is Darren McFadden here. Whoever we bring in, I hope they can keep our homegrown talent in state. If you look back, the majority of the time we've had successful teams, the core group of guys are from Arkansas.
And that was true when he was playing for Coach Nutt.
Yeah, unfortunately this year it's kind of an off year for guys in the state. Talk about this. Do you think it's oh yeah, you reap what you sow. He got 1 carry on senior day.
Cole Kelly
that
put
was
something out there he deleted.
Tweet right there.
Yeah.
Talk about this. Do you think it's a less tolerant fan base? You've been traveling around. It's been miserable for the last, 7 years. I mean,
well, they've been through a lot. The fan base has been through a lot with the Bielema down years.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't want to be embarrassed. And you're a fan. You try to stand up, be a Razorback, and you get beat by San Jose State. Not only getting beat, getting handled. I mean, it's not just that's the problem. You're not just getting beat; you were getting handled. So it's tough.
These games are over at the end of the first quarter.
And people are paying a lot of money to buy tickets and to do different things.
And we lowered our expectations now. You're all right with getting obliterated by Alabama and Auburn, which wasn't the case years ago. And I think they even slid this year. When you look at last year, they scored 31 on Alabama. They played LSU within 7 points.
And we got LSU coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and what's going to happen there?
Yeah.
Well, what's going to happen is whatever LSU wants to happen.
Hey, do you think these quarterbacks who are cast aside now with Coach gone and coaches not thinking about getting re-signed? Do you think Hicks? They want to put a good show for the last 2 weeks.
I don't know.
Hicks and Starkel are back in play.
You got a coaching staff right now in shock.
Yeah.
Probably not the chief. I think he was. He'd had enough anyway. I mean, he was very, not what he was accustomed to being involved in this kind of mess. So,
do you think he coaches the remaining 2 games?
Oh yeah, he's going to fulfill his contract.
Okay.
He would never know. He's a very prideful person. He'll coach it and he'll coach it hard.
Okay. Are you convinced he'll coach the last 2 games?
Well, Bruce and I were talking. There is the optic to where if you feel like Chad and Chavis were part together, if they were a whole, that you would make a move on both. So if they may not do that. Remember Barry Lundy's got to come in and he's going to try to win football games. And I'm curious just to see the attitude, the effort. If there's any way, that would be interesting to see if Barry Lundy in 2 games can make an impact on the way those guys play with effort. I wonder.
The only people that can answer that is going to be the player themselves. I mean, I don't think anything's going to be any different. I don't think Chief's going to coach any different.
And I will say this. Listen, there's some very good kids up there, but listen, this is not a talented Razorback team. There's spots of talent, but I've never seen it.
Hey, you know what's really sad?
What?
When we go out of our way to point out effort from one Razorback,
you just set it off,
and say, "Boy, look at that guy! That should be all your players."
The pinnacle was Baz the Traylon Burks. Yeah. After that, right at Alabama.
Think about that. Why are we pointing out one guy? It should be the whole team giving that kind of effort.
That should be the 22 starters all doing that.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
Well, it's a combination.
Where were the other 10 guys?
Here's it. You can have a lack of talent, but let me tell you what, Bruce. That lack of talent can give great effort.
Yeah,
that's the difference. That lack of talent can make a difference in a ball game, and that lack of talent at times did not give the effort.
All right, let's talk about timing. You're 40 days away from that early signing period. What needs to happen in the next 2-3 weeks?
I think you've lost 3 recruits tonight, 3 commitments.
3 or 4, right?
Yeah, you presume that's going to happen.
It's pretty much going to. It's going to be very difficult.
Well, the problem is you can't hire anybody in the next 3 weeks.
I think
unless from a smaller program, is there a chance
an
they
FCS,
would, you know, or even UAB? I mean, you hit the jackpot if you get the Arkansas job.
What are we doing though? We're gonna try to get somebody that's not. We're gonna start all over where we were, and like this is an unproven guy. Now we just spent $10 million to get rid of this guy, and now we're gonna go spend whatever we're gonna spend and see if this guy can get some players in if he's gonna win, or is Yurachek got someone legitimately that he knew he could hire? That he's
I don't think that's the case because I think
I tell you what, you do not fire someone without having the.
But what if he felt like he had no choice?
Well, he had a choice.
In other words,
because the choice was made by the president of the university, he wanted to keep him another year.
Yeah.
So
those board of trustees were able to fire Jeff Long, and I think they fired.
And the sole reason was the football program was down.
Yeah. Well, my point is, what we're discussing here, and these people that we're discussing as coaches, none of them are proven to winning in the SEC, are they?
Yeah.
Is any
perspective?
Yeah.
Who is?
Well, that's true too.
And Chad Morris wasn't either.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's my point. We're not improving ourselves as far as knowing anything.
Yeah. I do think Yurachek's willing to take a little bit of a risk.
Yeah.
You know, look, I think it's pretty out there, right? He tried to get Kelvin Sampson here. That's a guy with some baggage, and he did his best to get him.
I think Brady is the most intriguing pick. If you just throw an offer at him that is out of this world, and this guy worked magic at LSU, he's supposed to be a boy wonder, the New Orleans Saints, and always the smartest guy in the room, and could get folks excited.
Remember, Hunter Yurachek hired Tom Herman at Houston, went after Lane Kiffin, hired Sampson, hired Musselman. So you hired the gymnast,
Weaver,
which was a sort of out of the box.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting.
The good part of the positive things that I would tell the fans, I really like Yurachek. I really do. And I mean, the times that I've had conversations with him, and then he spoke to our 69 team, he's an athlete. He understands. He's played the game. He is someone that I trust is going to make a.
You trust him? No search committee that you trust him. You don't hire a search firm.
I don't want any search committees. I mean, you got people on there that doesn't know what he knows. Yeah. Let him do his job. You're paying him to be the athletic director. Whoever he selects, I'm going to be for. Okay. I mean, I really do like Yurachek. I really do. So, I'm just hoping that like a lot. You know, every head coach. If you look at Saban, for example, or you look at Orgeron or any coach, he keeps a list. If he loses a top assistant, he's got people that he wants ready to go in his own mind. I got to go after this person or this person, this person. I'm hoping that Hunter Yurachek had that list, you know, made up for a long time ago, and that he knows who he's definitive about who he wants to get 1, 2, 3.
Is your biggest concern heading now forward? Is it losing players off this current roster in the transfer portal, or is it?
I think that's just part of it. I mean,
that would happen even if you kept him, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you already see this disgruntlement anyway. You know, I just go back to where I just want to have somebody come in here and take control and get the discipline back, Bruce, and to run kids off if they don't need to be here.
Totally agree.
To make sure, listen, you're gonna know what to do. Every player, you're not gonna play. You're not gonna get on that field. Just some toughness. You know what I'm saying? Some discipline. That's what I feel we're missing, that we don't have.
You know, you're like me and everybody else that's ever played up there. You know, when you go in there, you have a certain attitude of what a privilege it is to have played, you know, for the Razorbacks. The hog on side of that helmet should mean pride. It should mean effort. And we have to watch what we've watched in the last 5 years, it's sickening. It's absolutely not.
I'll tell you what I liked in the basketball program. Opening game is so important to a team as far as the optics and everything.
Right.
They're a small team. He suspends Reggie Chaney for the first game.
Yeah, see, that's great. Musselman, I'm telling you, Musselman's a nice guy. Musselman's a nice guy. He knows what he's doing, Bruce.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, he will lay the hammer down to you.
But didn't we all think Morris was that way when he walked into that room and the video gets out and he says, sit up straight and put your feet on the floor and put your cups away? Whoever comes in is going to be met with so much more skepticism because
when you saw a couple of players, and I'm not going to point out names, they got second and third and fourth chances. And what are those players? They don't reward you, they burn you.
Can't do that.
More often than not.
Cannot do that. I totally agree. Y'all been asking all the questions. Let me ask a question, especially to Kyle or whatever. If you've seen all of these prospective coaches that might be interested or might go after. Give me who you want.
There's no home run higher.
I think Brady's the home run.
What can I get the name I think I would feel most comfortable with? Is that a good way to word it?
Yes, that's good.
Mike Norvell.
Okay.
Yeah. He's proven that he's won.
Yes.
He beat Ole Miss this year.
Yes.
He beat an SEC team.
You know, I think he comes across very well. Every interview you see with him, he comes across very well.
Plus he has Arkansas ties.
Yeah, he would satisfy that crowd.
Well, he's going to satisfy the Arkansas. That's who everybody wants.
Yeah.
My question is, why did Tennessee not take him? Why did Ole Miss not take him?
Why did Arkansas not take him 2 years ago? I don't know the answer to that.
None of us know. But, I mean, certainly it seems to be that name is what the fan base wants.
You know the other name that's been floating around as well that we hadn't mentioned?
Who's that?
3 letters.
3 letters.
G-U-S.
Oh, no. I don't want to go through that again.
Come on, I'm too old for that.
I'm telling you.
Tell me who you're talking about.
I'm telling you, they're throwing Gus Malzahn.
Oh, my God.
What's price now at Auburn?
I don't know. He's got his money. But, yeah, somebody said, yeah.
We almost made it through this half-hour special without bringing up his name.
Crazy.
Well, here's my deal. This is what I didn't feel like happened last time in the search. You know, we were here in the Broyles Award, and you got all these guys coming in, and my understanding was Brent Venable was sitting there, and I asked Brent, I said, have they talked to you? And he said, no. So I was like, how in the world, you know, he had baggage. I'm so sick of hearing about baggage. There's 20 interview the guy.
The difference is there's an athletics director this time.
That's right.
I mean, that was such a mess 2 years ago.
That's right.
You had no idea who was running the search.
I would love to hear Hunter Yurachek say, I've interviewed 15 people.
Yeah.
Interview them all.
Yeah.
So that way you can say, I picked out the one I thought was best.
I really don't believe he's interviewed anybody yet.
No. I don't think he has either. Are you kidding? Again, I don't think he was planning to fire him until the performance on the field, Bruce. I don't think he was going to fire him that day.
I agree with that, but don't you think in the back of his mind, he's smart enough guy to say this isn't. I mean, especially after the Auburn game.
Right.
He's got to say this may not work out.
That's right.
He should have started at that point.
We have 30 seconds. We want to remind you tomorrow you'll be able to watch that Hunter Yurachek press conference live right here on Channel 7 on the KTV Facebook page and online streaming at KTV.com, just as you were able to watch this special. That should be interesting tomorrow for sure.
Do we all get back together when we hire a coach?
Yes.
That's right. Hey, real quick, too. Hey, we have some great Razorbacks.
Yes.
Southwest Conference Hall of Fame. Right there. And 9 others tomorrow at the touchdown club.
That's right. Hey, thank you, guys.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you guys are the best.